Hi everyone. In this analysis I'll be looking at two short pieces by Georges-Philippe Telemann. These videos are intended to show how a quick general analysis may be undertaken. Unless stated, however, I won't specifically be using any established analytical methodologies such as Schenkerian or set theory analysis, but may include aspects of these methods. Before beginning an analysis, knowing in which era a composer lived can often suggest certain characteristics and features of the music. For example, because Telemann lived during the Baroque era, harmonically you wouldn't expect to find in his works extended chords such as ninths, 11ths and 13ths. When these types of notes are encountered, therefore, they'll probably suggest some kind of non-harmonic activity over a chord which would need resolution. Another aspect of the Baroque era, which I won't go into in too much detail here, is the so-called Doctrine of the Affections, which refer to how the Baroque composer or artist or poet was expected to move the affections of the audience. In other words, they were expected to take the audience on an emotional journey. Baroque scores also tended to be sparse in terms of articulation, dynamics, and marks of expression. You should be cautious, therefore, of scores which include too many of these markings, as they're probably editorial and not necessarily what the composer intended. Even these tempo marks may not have been written by Telemann. The title of a work may also suggest certain features. Arioso, for example, is often described as a work somewhere between an aria and a recitative, and the burlesca is described as a work of playful character, a jest. Following the Doctrine of the Affections, then, these two works suggest a contrast in mood between the slow arioso, which is here almost a lament, and the quicker burlesca. The works are in the parallel keys of G minor and G major, which are easily connected by their common dominant. Harmonically, the first 5 bars of the arioso essentially prolong the tonic, with the bass oscillating between the tonic and raised leading notes. And from here the bass begins a chromatic descent, which is harmonized here with the minor dominant and ends with a Phrygian cadence to the dominant. Melodically, the first 4 bars are divided into two 2-bar phrases. The first phrase begins with a leap from the 5th of tonic harmony to G before returning through E flat to C, the 3rd of supertonic 7th harmony, which is decorated with a chromatic lower neighbour note. The second 2-bar phrase uses the same rhythm as the first, and now, even though this inner D has descended to C, the melody leaps higher to A, creating energy before returning to C. The C then moves as a 4/3 suspension decorated with the lower neighbour note to end on B flat, the third of tonic harmony. The first 4 bars then essentially descend in this inner part from D to B flat, although forward momentum is created by this expanding wedge shape and the 2-5-1 progression. The second 4 bars begin with 2 bars containing identical notes and rhythm. They also contain this initial semitone descent, which is often referred to in the Doctrine of Affections as a musical sigh. This bar also uses this rhythm and a descent through a subdominant C minor arpeggio, which together with this D are identical to the notes of the opening bar, but which here occur over a shorter time span. Also, this G not only echoes the opening bar, but also provides a conclusion to the initial ascent from this G to A. As we'll see, this move, along with several others, are echoed in the burlesque. These subtle connections may not necessarily be obvious to the listener, but still create a sense of unity within the same work and between the two works. The second 4 bars then essentially prolong D through movement between chords containing G and F sharp and the descent in the final few bars. Harmonically, the first 4 bars of the burlesque essentially prolong the tonic before ending on the dominant. Melodically, they also introduce this motif, which is initially paired with 2 quarter notes as part of this rhythmic pattern. The second bar repeats this pattern, although now these quarter notes are moved higher, creating a sense of forward progression. Here this is achieved through voice exchange, where these notes are exchanged, changing the inversion of the tonic and dominant chords. The exchange also creates this D to A descent in the bass, which is part of another expanding wedge shape. The D to A descent is then moved to the treble, where the B note is prolonged by C, heard as part of this dominant 7th neighbour chord, to end here on the 5th degree of dominant harmony. The melody then leaps to the root note of dominant harmony, which is here decorated with a chromatic lower neighbour note. These bars then contain in the treble a larger descent from D to A, which is preempted in the bass, and a prolongation of B through the initial 3 bars, which also moves to A. The second section begins with a 4-bar sequence containing a 6-7-3-5 linear intervallic pattern. Harmonically, this sequence uses a Monte progression, which is described by Joseph Riepel as a progression used at the beginning of the second section of a 2-reprise form, which precedes the subdominant and dominant chords with their own dominants. Melodically also, these bars continue the forward momentum with a move from G to A, echoing the move in the first 4 bars of the arioso. From here, the rhythm of the opening 2 bars of the burlesque returns with the D to A descent of the initial 4 bars, now extended beginning from here and concluding on G in the final bar. The expanding wedge shape from the opening bars of both the arioso and burlesque here contract, reflecting the drive to the final cadence. The final bar of the burlesque uses the same rhythm and notes from bar 4, but now transposed to the tonic. This leap up to the tonic note, while echoing the same idea in bar 4, also echoes the return to G in the penultimate bar of the arioso, providing another connection between the two works. The second section of this work then initially continues the ascent in the melody through the sequence before returning to the opening idea and the descent to the tonic. I hope you found this useful. Thanks for watching. See you next time.